other than personal reasons for believing that God exists. But if somebody says, well, if it can be proven that God doesn't exist, would you then stop being a Christian? Would you stop believing in God? Well, I suppose I would have to, because I'm an intellectually honest person. If you can prove that God doesn't exist, I'd have to change my position. But you can as easily prove to me that my parents don't exist, because I've known God almost as long as I've known them. And he generally has been so active in my life that it would be very hard for any amount of evidence for me to be interpreted against his existence. Just like it'd be hard presenting evidence that would convince me my parents didn't exist. But as far as, apart from my personal experience with God, and it would be unwise, I realize that when you speak of personal experience with God, you're dealing with really the best evidence that God exists, except that it's the most likely to be ridiculed. Because everyone can say, well, the Muslims have their experience with God, and the Sikhs have their experience with God, and the Buddhists have theirs. Buddhists don't believe in God, but Hindus have theirs with their gods, and Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons have theirs. And all this is true. And it's not my desire here to debate whether the Mormon version or the Jehovah's Witness version or the Christian version, or for that matter the Muslim version of God, is the more correct view. I would like to debate that with those who hold those different positions, because I believe that can be established from evidence also. But my desire tonight is much less ambitious than to prove any particular religious notion of God, because we're not talking about whether Christianity is true, but whether theism is true. Is there a God? That's the first thing we have to decide. Once we've decided if there is a God, and if the affirmative is our answer, then we have a whole new project to decide whether the Christian version, the biblical version, is the God who is there, or whether it's another. I'm a fully convinced Christian. I believe in the Bible. But those are not the things that I've come here to defend tonight. I'd love to defend those on another occasion. It's just too much ground to try to cover in 20 minutes. So I'm going to take a much less ambitious project and just discuss whether atheism makes sense or theism makes sense more as a worldview. Now, I'd rather speak of worldviews than religions, because I'm not an extremely religious person. I never really have been since I was a teenager. I left the church I was raised in, and I've just been a follower of Jesus. I know him. He and I have walked together for many years, and I just am not wrapped up in any particular religious system. I embrace the Christian religion, but I'm not wanting to give particularly religious arguments for the existence of God. I just want to say that if a person follows the views of the modern atheist books that have come out, especially since 2006, when several different atheist books came out all at once, by Richard Dawkins and by Christopher Hitchens and by Sam Harris. Sam Harris had an earlier book in 2004, and by Dan Dennett. Then you'll rule out the idea that there's a God, and you might not seek the God that made you. And I would like to say there is still good reason to believe that there is a God who made you, and that there is one that we ought to seek to know. Now, I would start with the most basic things that I would hope almost everyone could agree upon, because that's the best place to start talking about a controversial subject. Let's start where people agree. I think that most people would have to agree that something is ultimate. Something is the explanation for everything. Something was here before all that we see was here. Now, whether that something was God, as most religions